going on? Welcome in the Matt Bernier Show. It's the recap edition. This is for the weekend of December the 2nd. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. If you're watching this live on Tuesday at noon, live.drf.com, livestream.com, the Daily Racing Form's Twitter handle. That would be at DRF Inside Post, as well as the Daily Racing Form Facebook page. Thank you for doing so. If you check it out, podcast version, which I know most of you do, you've got YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. Plenty of good racing from this past weekend, the first weekend in December to go over, and we start off with the final Grade 1 in New York. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 1 Cigar Mile. It was an interesting field coming into it. You had a number of horses exiting the Breeders' Cup, and we would find out, was a horse like Sharp Azteca going to finally be able to get the first Grade 1? Was a horse like Practical Joke going to be able to get back to his winning ways, getting back to one-turn distance here for Chad Brown? John Embrial with the stretch run of the Cigar Mile.
The lead as they come off the turn and enter the stretch, and here is Sharp Azteca now to take the lead, 3/4 up in 1:10-4. Mind Your Biscuits is putting in a run on the outside, and now there's a furlong to the finish. It's Sharp Azteca with the lead, Mind Your Biscuits into second. As they come down for the finish, it's Sharp Azteca, and he was sharp as can be today to win the Cigar Mile. Won it by 5. Mind Your Biscuits was second.
Sharp Azteca, very impressive, winning the Cigar Mile. He gets the job done for Jorge Navarro. Javier Castellano with the ride. He pays $5.50 on top. The number one, Mind Your Biscuits, runs second, $6.40 to place. Practical Joke rounds out your trifecta, $2.70 to show. The $1 exacta, $16.30, excuse me. The 50-cent trifecta, $23.50. The 10-cent superfecta, $29.75. Sharp Azteca is a 4-year-old son of Freud. You see there, he is 8 of 16 lifetime. He is trained by Jorge Navarro. He's owned by Ivan Rodriguez. He is now over $1.75 million in career earnings. He really has done nothing wrong. You see that overall record. Spending the money, 14 of 16 lifetime, ridden by Javier Castellano this time around. He's the son of Freud. And you see out of a St. Liam mare, you wonder if at some point, if they were ever so ambitious, maybe you could try something like the turf, but guess what? When you've got a Grade 1 winner on the dirt, seems highly unlikely we'll get to see him on the turf at any point here. This is a horse, Sharp Azteca, he shows up and runs his race no matter what. One of those instances where sometimes good enough, sometimes it's not. This Saturday afternoon, he was miles the best in here. He sat a beautiful stalking trip throughout, and I think a lot of this had to do with Javier being sharp enough to understand, you know what, let those other two horses, Seymour Dini as well as Americanized, go out there, set the pace. Wasn't a blistering pace. If you look at the Timeform U.S. color codings, that third quarter mile leading and turning into the stretch, that was color-coded blue, so they slowed it down a little bit, and maybe that hindered the ability of a horse like Practical Joke or a horse like Mind Your Biscuits, who ran second, to come from well out of it. But at the end of the day, when you look and see the final quarter mile times, then you see a confirmed closer like Practical Joke comes home in 24-4. Mind Your Biscuits, who came from mid-pack, 24-4. Americanized, who was out there pressing the pace throughout, he comes home in 25-4. And then you see Sharp Azteca, the winner, he comes home in 24-1. There was no one beating Sharp Azteca on Saturday afternoon at Aqueduct. This was a career-defining race for this horse thus far. He just shows up. I understand there's some love and hate as far as Jorge Navarro is concerned. I'm not going to try to sway you one way or the other. All I would strongly urge, and we can take a look at the chart right now, I would just strongly urge you respect the horse and look and see what the horse has done in all of his lifetime starts. He just shows up and runs his race. Sometimes good enough, sometimes not. These are the kind of horses. Again, whatever your opinions are of the connections, that's an entirely different story. These are the kind of horses that we should respect and we should appreciate watching them go out and perform. Sharp Azteca earns a 115 Beyer speed figure, a 134 Timeform U.S. rating, and it sounds like Navarro said if he comes out of this, then he's in good order. They're going to be pointing to the Pegasus World Cup, $16 million purse, and potentially a showdown with the eventual, presumable horse of the year in 2016, Gun Runner, the reigning Breeders' Cup Classic champion. We'll find out if that race does come to fruition. It'd be fantastic. There is no question, though. Sharp Azteca, he's finally got the Grade 1. He wins the Cigar Mile. Sharp Azteca is one of the stars that we already have. Let's find out possibly about potential superstars going forward. This was the field for the 2-year-old Remsen Stakes, going a 1 1/8. For many of these horses, first time 2 turns, first time out to a 1 1/8. A lot of unknowns. You had a Chad Brown horse in here in Alcatam who, let's call a spade, vastly overbet in this spot. You had a graded stakes winner in Avery Island. You also had an unknown as far as the main track was concerned for Catholic Boy, who Ran very well on the turf in the Breeders' Cup, but that was just it. He had run on the turf thus far in his career. How would he handle the main track? John Embriel with the call.
The Island is in behind the front runners as they come off the turn and enter the stretch. And here is Catholic Boy now to take over the lead. Catholic Boy in front as they pass the 3/16 pole. Catholic Boy with a 3-length lead. Then Avery Island and Vouch and Tap Rap Strike and Alcatam. But it's Catholic Boy, and he may have grown up some today. Catholic Boy wins the Remsen under Manny Franco. Avery Island was second, and Vouch finished third.
I'd say he handles the main track just fine. Catholic Boy pays $10.20 on top. Avery Island, the previous graded stakes winner in the Nashua, comes in second, $3.70 to place. And Vouch shipping up from the Mid-Atlantic for Arnaud Delacour runs third, $6 to show. $1 exacta, $20.50, 50-cent try, $73.62. The 10-cent superfecta, $49.80. Catholic Boy is now 3 for 4 in his career. He's over $300,000 in career earnings for Bob LaPenta, the owner, trained by Jonathan Thomas. You see the breeders, Hurtrick and Fielding, and Manny Franco with another very, very strong ride. The pedigree more than ready out of a Bernardini mare. The question was, would this horse be able to handle the main track? Not only did he handle it, I think he excelled. Jonathan Thomas, after the race, talked about it and said he was really a turf horse by default early on, simply because we knew we wanted distance. He wanted to go as far as he possibly could. He galloped out like a monster here in this spot, came home, got his final 1/8 of a mile in 12 4, while many of the other horses coming from off of it, they came home over 13 seconds. There's really not a lot that this horse has done wrong in his career, and just because he missed the board in the Breeders' Cup, that doesn't tell the entire story. He actually ran quite well. And Thomas said it himself, because next race we kind of have to go to the dirt. We've got to see if this horse is going to take us on that route, and then afterward we'll find out. Who knows what he ultimately ends up being, what his preferred surface is. But right now, Catholic Boy, you've got to put him on that short list of 2-year-olds, soon-to-be 3-year-olds here in a few weeks. The 91 buyer that makes him a major player. 1 1/8, not going to be a problem. You want to even stretch him out farther, and it sounds like he's only going to excel. And you look at the way that he ran, 1 1/4 seems well within his range. 118 time form US rating. A lot of things to like about Catholic Boy. He's got a high profile ownership. He's got an up-and-coming trainer. Jonathan Thomas has done some very good stuff in a short amount of time. I think this is a horse that kind of checks all the boxes. And Manny Franco, another beautifully timed ride here with Catholic Boy. I don't want to get off Avery Island just yet as we take a look at the overall chart, and you can file this away, take some notes if you will. Avery Island, I thought he ran very, very well. It seems like he learned a lot. He was in behind horses, and down the backside he idled a little bit, and I wonder if that was mainly because he was catching dirt really in his face for the first time. I like the fact that he stayed on, though. This is a horse with a big pedigree. It seems as though distance is only going to be his friend. He's obviously going to need to improve if he's going to run down a horse like Catholic Boy, but I don't think he's done anything wrong, and there's no reason to think that you're not going to get a forward move from him as they turn 3-year-olds here in a few weeks. But make no mistake about it, Catholic Boy, question about the dirt? No more. He is right there. He is primed and ready, possibly for a run at the bigger races as they turn over to the 3-year-old campaign. Filly counterpart to the Remsen was the Demoiselle. Let's take a look at that field. 9 furlongs on the main track. Wonder Godot, heavy favorite, and really, I wonder if it was based more on reputation than anything else, because on paper she didn't have any giant edge on this field from a standpoint of figures or anything else like that, but she had run in the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies, and a couple of these other fillies, they were taking a pretty significant step up as far as class is concerned. Well, guess what? Any questions about Wonder Godot's ability leading into this race? Quickly answered. Here's Johnny I with the call.
Is Layla Noor 3/4, 1:16-1. They're in the stretch now. Here's Wonder Godot up to grab the lead. On the outside is held accountable, and Layla Noor, more power, is towards the rail as they pass the 8th pole. It's Wonder Godot now in front by 3. More Power has moved into second, but she's not going to catch Wonder Godot and Johnny Velasquez. They win the Demoiselle by 3.5 lengths. More Power was second.
Wonder Godot romps in the Demoiselle, pays $5.20 on top as the post-time favorite. More Power runs second for the Service Connections Service outfit, $4.90 to place. Layla Noor third, $4.90 to show. The $1 exacta, $13.20. 50-cent trifecta, $35.37. The 10-cent super, $24.25. Wonder Godot is 3 of 5 lifetime. She has hit the board on 4 occasions, over $310,000 in career earnings, owned by Gary Barber, trained by Mark Cassie, bred by Anderson Farms, Ontario Incorporated. John Velasquez, Medaglia d'Oro, out of a Vindication mare. She really hasn't done a lot wrong. The knock I have about this race, or not, I don't want to call it a knock, The concern I had going into it was not necessarily the ability. The ability, it seems like she's always been talented. The question for me was surface. Is dirt really what she's going to want to do? Is it going to be her preferred surface, or is she going to want to go back over to the synthetic or the turf where she's already had some significant success? The reason that I don't know that dirt is still what she wants to do is the way this race was run. You see the half mile was up in 50 and 1 3/4 and 16 and 1, and she skipped home as if it were a turf race. She finished in 12 and 2. The runner-up, More Power, who that may be the one that you want to take going forward out of this from a trip standpoint, because she was a little bit boxed in for John Service and company. It took her a little while to get out, and unfortunately for those connections, when you run that slow early and you've got a horse like Wonder Godot who can finish, it can be very, very difficult to run her down. She herself came home in 12 and 2 also. I think both of the top two are very, very good. It just, the question remains for me anyway about Wonder Godot. Is dirt really what her game is going to be going forward? She earns a 78 by her speed figure, a 103 time form US rating. As far as some of the other runners in here, the disappointment in the race was probably Daisy, also for John Service. And he even said, he goes, disappointed with her, but really like the way that More Power ran. There's only so much that you can ask for out of her, stretching out a significant distance. Irad Ortiz Jr. has already said he'd like to ride her back. And they're going to get down to Florida or wherever else they're going to run their next spots. And he seems to think that they're going to be pretty solid as 3-year-olds. Let's take a look at that chart if we could. Wonder Godot, again, she really hasn't done a heck of a lot wrong in her career. 3 of 5 lifetime. She's going to need to improve, but who am I to say that that's impossible as they get ready to turn 3 years old here? I would imagine she'll take up residence down in Florida with the rest of the Cassie operation, whether it's Gulfstream Park or it's Tampa Bay or anywhere else in the vicinity. Wonder Godot, possibly one that you're going to have to keep an eye on going forward as we get closer and closer as the 3-year-olds with the Kentucky Oaks. Fourth and final graded stakes race that we'll go over from Aqueduct this past Saturday was actually the first one in chronological order. This was the For Wand Handicap. Let's take a look at that field going into it. You had a heavy, heavy favorite. Again, Chad Brown. It just seems like wherever Chad's runners are, they're going to get bet. Jameson and Ginger on the heels of a perfect trip, but she ran very well in her most recent start. You also have Highway Star exiting the Breeders' Cup. A couple other runners in there. Verve's Tail. And a little filly called Indulgent, who I suppose to date had been a little bit disappointing in her career overall, but she gets a big graded stakes win in the For Wand. Here's John Embriel with the call.
Then going for broke and Jameson and Ginger. The field is in the stretch. Here's Indulgent now to grab the lead. Indulgent is in front. Highway Star is all out on the outside. Indulgent with the lead. Highway Star driving. Then Verve's Tail, Lucy and Ethel, and going for broke. A 16th to the finish. Indulgent trying to hold off last year's winner. Highway Star is Indulgent with the lead, and Indulgent has pulled off the upset. Indulgent wins it at 12 to 1.
Indulgent wins the For Wand Handicap Grade 3 event. She pays $27.40 on top. Highway Star, coming out of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, comes back to run second here, pays $3.90 to place. And Verve's Tail, $2.90 to show. The $1 exacta 7-2 comes back $53. 50-cent trifecta 725, 117.75, and the 10-cent super comes back 102.35. Indulgent is now 4 of 12 lifetime, over $340,000 in career earnings. She's owned by Godolphin Racing, bred by Darley, trained by Kieran McLaughlin. You had Louis Saez aboard. If you look at the pedigree, and perhaps it looks a little bit familiar, you see Bernardini on top. You see a dam called Fast Cookie underneath. Maybe not the Bernardini part, that would be the tip-off, but Fast Cookie was also the mother of Frosted. So this is Frosted's little sister, and the president of Godolphin USA, Jimmy Bell, said doesn't know if this is going to be her last race, but it is far and away the most important one of her career. She's now graded stakes winner. Now she goes off, and just as a broodmare, she is worth her weight in gold. We'll find out. Again, she doesn't. The problem is when you have these big connections and these big pedigrees, particularly the way that Godolphin does, the expectation level is when you see this filly running at a 1-turn mile, you think, well, this is what Frosted wanted to do all along. Why can't she do it better than she does? It's not a knock, but the bar here for Frosted and the bar is here for Indulgent. And it's just simply because not all of them are going to be Frosted, even if they were brothers and sisters, excuse me. She got a decent enough number, an 88. That's kind of what she is from a buyer standpoint. She's never going to be a superstar, but she's an honest horse. She shows up, she runs her race, 113 time form US rating. Let's take a look at the chart if we could for the For Wand. Verve's Tail, she's another one. She just kind of does what she does. She likes to go out there and run a little bit. Sometimes she'll just be better than the rest of the field, and sometimes she'll just clunk up and get a piece. The big disappointment in here, we've got to acknowledge, was Jameson and Ginger. She went off as the 8-5 favorite, and she never picked her feet up. She was down toward the inside the entire way beneath Javier Castellano. And it was just an instance where, for one reason or another, she didn't fire. The pace may not have been electric. They got a half and 40, 6 and 4, 3/4 and 11 and 2. An Indulgence had a beautiful trip throughout, but really no excuse for Jamison Ginger. One thing if you don't win, it's another thing if you don't pick your feet up. She did not pick her feet up at any point in the running, but tip of the cap to Kieran, tip of the cap to Luis Saez. A beautiful ride. Nice job from Indulgence. She gets the job done in the go for Wand. Turning attention back to the 2-year-olds of the Calbred variety, this is the field for the Soviet Problem Stakes on Saturday afternoon out on the west coast at Los Alamitos. These are 2-year-old Calbred fillies. And you see there's a heavy favorite in here, the number 1, One Fast Broad, owned and trained by Mick Ruiz on the heels of a big stakes win on Breeders' Cup weekend. Trying to come back here and hopefully take advantage of a pace scenario that would be advantageous at Los Alamitos. Here is the stretch call of the Soviet Problem.
Broad is starting to get involved, but she's going way out to the outside and losing all sorts of ground as she starts to motor home, and here she comes. One Fast Broad is getting involved, and getting involved she is. One Fast Broad from nowhere rolling home for Nakatani. She was last on the turn, and she's up to the outside of Spice Perfection past the 16th bull, and she gets the lead in the Soviet Problem. One Fast Broad. Wow, big effort today.
One Fast Broad, last to first, gets the job done in the Soviet Problem, pays $4.20 as your even money favorite come post time. Number 4, Spiced Perfection, second, $3.40 to place. Twisted Rosie, the pace setter, $4.20 to show. $1 exacta, 1-4 comes back $6.10. $1 trifecta, 145, $26.20, and the $1 superfecta, 1456, comes back $383.60. One Fast Broad is 3 of 5 lifetime now, 4 for 5 in the exacta. Now at $229,000 in career earnings for Ruiz Racing LLC and Mick Ruiz. You see the breeders, you see Corey Nakatani the rider, you see the pedigree there, DeCarchi, out of a Mr. Broadblade mare. This is an instance where I don't know what you want to do with this horse going forward. Prior to the race, Mick Ruiz said she'd be considered for the $200,000 Cal Cup Oaks at 1 mile on the turf at Santa Anita on February the 19th. I would imagine there is no change to that plan. The problem is, and the reason I say I don't know what you do with her, is because she earned a 66 Beyer speed figure. And she came home in 24-1, and also keep in mind she started her career looking like turf was going to be the preferred surface. Now she hasn't done anything wrong in the dirt, and there's no reason to say that maybe this isn't what she wants going forward, but you know that you've got the turf in the back pocket. It sounds like if all stays as planned, turf will be coming back into the picture here relatively soon. It's also worth noting Timeform had this racetrack at Los Alamitos labeled as slightly closer friendly, so that would work against the second and third place finishers in here, Spice Perfection and Twisted Rosie, and play into the hooves of this filly here, One Fast Broad. She earns a 90 Timeform US rating. Let's take a look at the chart if we could, and you see she came from out of the clouds. She was way out of it, and your 2 pace setters, they ran second and third. So maybe you want to potentially, if you buy in to the fact that Timeform US had this racetrack color-coded as slightly closer friendly or slightly off the pace being advantageous, maybe you want to upgrade the second and third place finishers slightly, not significantly, slightly downgrade One Fast Broad. But hey, hard to knock a horse that all she does is go out and win. Again, she's 3 of 5 lifetime now. She got career earnings of $229,000, and it sounds like a potential start in the $200,000 Cal Cup Oaks on the turf at Santa Anita on February the 19th, maybe next. Featured event at Los Alamitos on Sunday was the Grade 2 Bayakoa. Let's take a look at that field. Always an interesting race this time of year. You see, it wasn't a giant field. You only had 8 that went forward to the post, but you had a really tight betting race where you had 4 horses 5-1 or less. You had a couple horses stretching out in distance. You had them trying different surfaces off of long layoffs. You name it, it was involved in this spot. And at the end of the day, Majestic Heat, she has turned into a different horse on the dirt. Here's the stretch run of the Bayakoa.
Second, widest into the lane, trying to get to Champagne Room, and here they are at the top of the stretch. Champagne Room turns them on down, but Majestic Heat, under a full head of steam, is right up to challenge and take over the lead. Majestic Heat in front inside the final furlong. Champagne Room battling hard down the second spot. Long way back to Bernina Star, who's rallied from the back of the pack outside Madam Stripes, but Majestic Heat loved the 2 turns today, and she wins the Bayakoa in style.
Majestic Heat makes it 2 for 2 on the main track, pays $8, winning the Bayakoa. Champagne Room, runner-up, $3.80 to place. Madam Stripes, predominantly a turf horse, but she had done some good things down in South America on dirt. $5 to show. The $1 exacta, $13.90. The $1 trifecta, $79.20. And the $1 superfecta, $3,248. Comes back $860.50. Majestic Heat is 7 of 16 lifetime, and over $530,000 in career earnings for her owners. You see the breeders, you see Mike Smith, who was the winning rider, and you see Richard Mandela, the winning trainer. This filly was by Unusual Heat out of an Ole mare. This is one of those instances where you look at everything about her pedigree and it suggests that turf is what she wants. And I thought she was very promising as a 3-year-old. She's now 5, soon to be 6. And she just never seemed to get over that hump. And Mandela talked about it in some of the post-race comments, that she had been training so well in the mornings and it just did not translate for one reason or another. And sometimes you got to try something different. That's exactly what they did. They tried something different, tried her on the dirt, passed that first test in spades, and then she gets here, and this was just one of those scenarios where maybe she's just better than these horses, or maybe she just really appreciated getting to the dirt. 93 Beyer speed figure. We can take a look at the chart overall. And this could be the beginning of some good things for this filly over the next handful of months, because it sounds like the La Cañada on January the 13th is going to be the preliminary target anyway. And it makes you wonder, is this going to be a filly or a mare at this point that you're possibly looking at a campaign similar to what we saw from Vale Dory, trained by Bob Baffert this time last year, where she got good at the right time, she beat up on some lesser company, you've got no Stellar Wind, you've got no Songbird, things are kind of open for you. I mean, if you don't think that Unique Bella or Paradise Woods, if they're not going to train on or take that step forward, you know that Majestic Heat, dirt, 2 turns, not a problem for her. She can sit off the pace. She can be forwardly placed. I think there's a lot to like here with Majestic Heat. Again, Mandela said it. Sometimes you just got to kind of throw your hands up and try something different. They did that, and it seems to be working very, very well. Majestic Heat gets the job done, the Bayakoa, with a 93 Beyer speed figure. Featured event Sunday up north of the border at Woodbine. 2-year-old fillies on the synthetic all-weather track. Let's take a look at the field for the Ontario Lassie. It wasn't a big field, but you had a heavy favorite in here. The number 6 Dixie Moon ultimately went off at odds of 1-2, exiting the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. Didn't get embarrassed in that spot, but clearly was expected to put on some sort of a show here, even though turf is obviously a more preferred surface for this filly. As you can see by the stretch run, things got a little bit dicey.
Out in the center of the track as they turn as goes Sudarino and Luna Garden. Queen's Fate peels to the outside. Dixie Moon tackled by Loopity Loo. Queen's Fate on the outside. Dixie Moon forced to really run here. Queen's Fate's coming down the outside, and Queen's Fate's the big threat. Queen's Fate trying. Dixie Moon on the inside. Queen's Fate charging home. They go down to the wire. It's so close. Queen's Fate on the outside and ahead, Bob, with Dixie Moon, the photo to decide it.
Made you sweat if you played her at odds of 1-2, did Dixie Moon, but she does prevail and pays $3 on the win end. Queen's Fate, the number 1, runs second, $3.60 to place with a beautiful sort of in-out trip. And your third place finisher was Loop-de Loo. No show wagering just because of the heavy favorite in this spot. $2 exacta, or the exactor if you played up north. $9.20, $2 triactor. $48.90, the $1 superfecta, $93.10. Dixie Moon is now 3 of 5 lifetime, a 2-year-old, trained by Catherine Day Phillips. She's over $260,000 in career earnings, ridden by Eurico Rosa da Silva. You look at the pedigree at the bottom, Curlin out of a Rahi mare. This girl's game is turf. I think it's safe to say that the synthetic track is not necessarily her preferred one. She's done better things on the turf, and it sounds like, by all accounts, she's going to get a little bit of a breather. She's going to take about 4 weeks, and then she'll rejoin Catherine Day Phillips' string down at Palm Meadows in Florida. I think it's going to be one of those instances where she's done enough good things as a 2-year-old that I would like to think that if she takes any sort of step forward with that kind of pedigree, with distance even as well. I know she popped back to her left lead. She's been a little bit green with that throughout her 5-race career. I'd like to think that Dixie Moon could be one of the better 3-year-old turf horses that we've got going here in North America, and maybe a longer-term goal would be something like the Belmont Oaks in the middle of the summer at Belmont Park. Let's take a look at the chart, if we could, for Dixie Moon. Certainly a regression from a Beyer standpoint. She only earned a 67 in here. Queen's Fate also earning a 67 Beyer speed figure, but again, I think this is the kind of horse that you want to take a look at and say, this is not her preferred surface. She's a better turf horse than she is a synthetic horse. They had an opportunity here coming out of the Breeders' Cup. They took it. They got the money as the 1-2 favorite. Comes home in 30 and 4/5 seconds. Dixie Moon wins with a 67 Beyer speed figure in the Ontario. Lassie, this past weekend of December the 2nd, was also opening weekend at Gulfstream Park with the championship meeting. And Saturday, you had the Claiming Crown Series, which is always the kickoff to the championship meet down at Gulfstream Park. Since there were so many races and there's just not enough time to go over them all, we have a Gulfstream Park Claiming Crown montage to show you now.
Back to third and Delusional KK. Wide as Ventina from between horses. Northern Screamer with 3/16 to go. It's the SoCal Sharpie. It's still Mended in front by 3. Back to second is Moonshine. Promised down at the inside. Delusional KK and a late run from Sugar Cube, but she's out of time. Here's what the Claiming Crown's all about. Here's 10 in a row. Here's Mended all the way. To fourth and Harry He, 2 in front of Mr. Manning. Hello, It's Me is next, and on the far outside, Doodle Hopper. They're at the top of the stretch, making a big sweeping move to take the lead is First Growth, and First Growth, the Ohio Invader, takes over the lead at the 8th pole and moves away by 2. Blings Express is flat to the boards and making no impression second. Late run from Doodle Hopper, moving out the rail that shipped Disturber, but as they come to the wire, Gerardo Corrales and First Growth are clear to the finish, and they won it by 3 in the end. Blings Express Island Reward is 6 wide off the corner. Still Kasuga has better than 7 lengths to raise with 1/8 of a mile left to go. Blue Bahia now strides to a clear advantage. My Sweet Dove charging at her on the outside, widest of all, and My Sister Carol in between horses is still right there. They come to the wire. Blue Bahia will win it and win it by 2.5. My Sweet Dove second, My Sister Carol third. Island Reward from there, and they're at the top of the stretch in the Iron Horse. And up front, 2 Cuban Brothers U off the corner leads by 2. Solve is second. Rich Daddy begins to motor from third. Lieutenant Shawnee O is up the inside. Centeno trying to get one more 16th from 2 Cuban Brothers U, and he's in front by 3. Rich Daddy's out of time. 2 Cuban Brothers U goes all the way to beat as he turns first with a 3-length lead. On the outside and trying to get after him second, here's Oak Bluffs with a rush. 3/16 to go. Zayas gets to work on Pay Any Price, and the Jet still has something in the tank. On the outside, and Oak Bluffs runs second, and he's getting to him now. Pay Any Price pleading for the wire. On the outside, and Oak Bluffs, Pay Any Price digging in. Pay Any Price is hanging on for the Black and White Express to get the lead. Confronted outside by Rhythm Park. Leperoux sets him down for the drive, and Cautious Giant's on a roll. He's way out in the center with some momentum. Here's Cautious Giant trying to get to Manhattan Mischief. Aztec Sense is rolling home, but time ticking away. Manhattan Mischief and Cautious Giant. Cautious Giant roused to a short lead. Manhattan Mischief is doing everything he can, but he can't stay with Cautious Giant. Manhattan Mischief second. I think Crocodile Charlie fights on for third. Circles 5 wide with momentum as they're at the top of the stretch. It's Starship Jubilee set down for the drive and has to quicken up. Martini Glass comes off cover to try to track her down the center, and coming on is Peru, far outside in Artemisa. They're getting to Starship Jubilee. On the outside, here's Martini Glass. Peru, a final lunge. Peru, Martini Glass. It's a photo finish, and it's too close. They run to the top of the stretch. Spring Up is now put ahead in front. Lay That Pistol Down cuts the corner and tries to fight on second. Special Ops and K-Mac with the craziness. Royal Blessing is next, and Sinatra's at the rail. Final Furlong, Spring Up has the lead. A host of pursuers. Special Ops chiming into it down the center. Bingo Kitten with a late rally and then to craziness. Special Op has the lead close to home. Special Ops will win it. Bingo Kitten's going to get second. It's very close for third. Really handled by Paco Lopez. It moves away by 2. On the outside, Flashy Jewel tries to stay with him second. Diamond Bachelor has room to quicken if he's good enough, and he is coming on. Final Furlong, Lopez wakes up Flowers for Lisa, who maintains control. Diamond Bachelor is second. Flashy Jewel on the outside, but through it all, Flowers from Lisa will go gate to wire to win it. Flowers for Lisa by a length and a half. Close for second.
Heady ride from Paco Lopez there, taking the Claiming Crown Jewel, and it's nice to see the championship meet kicked off down at Gulfstream Park. So we've got Gulfstream for the next handful of months. Should be some good stuff. As we always do here on this recap edition of the Matt Bernier Show, it's time to go over the weekend's best performances, and we show you this pretty little graphic here that gives you all the numbers from every division, and I'll run them down if you're just listening to this thing in the audio format. These are the weekend's best as far as Beyer speed figures are concerned, every division on each surface. So the 2-year-old males, Catholic Boy, he earned a 91 Beyer speed figure in taking the Remsen. It was a visually impressive effort, one you're probably going to want to keep an eye on going forward as we get closer and closer to the road to the Triple Crown and the road to the Kentucky Derby. The 2-year-old females, Wonder Godot. We saw what she did in the Demoiselle, basically the counterpart to the Catholic boy Remsen. A little bit on the slower side with the 78 buyer. No reason to think that she can't move forward, but at the same time, I still don't know what surface she's truly going to want. Practical Joke, the fastest 3-year-old male of the weekend with a 102 buyer. He finishes in third, unfortunately for him, in his final lifetime start in the Cigar Mile. 3-year-old female Champagne Room, we saw her run second in the Bayakoa. 89 buyer, nothing wrong with that. I still think she's one that can move forward in time and with a little bit more racing. Older male, we saw Sharp Azteca put on an absolute show. 115 buyer speed figure on his way. He wins the Cigar Mile, possibly with a date here in a few weeks. He's going to be in a showdown with Gunrunner in the Pegasus World Cup down at Gulfstream. And then older females, Majestic Heat, 93 buyer speed figure, winning the Bayakoa. As far as the turf side of things is concerned, 2-year-old males a little bit on the light side. Eye of a Jedi, a 62 buyer. That came in a maiden special weight affair down at Gulfstream. Much faster, though, a 2-year-old maiden special weight at Gulfstream for the females. Ms. Pinetour, I believe that's how we pronounce it, 79 buyer, and a visually impressive effort. That might be one that you're going to want to keep an eye on going forward. Throw that into your DRFL Horse Watch account. 3-year-old males on turf, pocket change, 94 buyer speed figure. 3-year-old females on turf in the Lee, 89 buyer. As far as older males are concerned, Pay Any Price, a 100 buyer speed figure in that turf sprint down there at Gulfstream Park on the Claim and Crown card. And the older females, Blue Bahia, 95 buyer speed figure as far as the turf is concerned. Those are the weekend's best performances from a buyer speed figure standpoint. We show that to you every Tuesday on the Matt Bernier Show, the recap edition. As we also always do on the Tuesday edition of the show, let's take a look at what's on tap for the upcoming week on DRFTV. You can watch this stuff on video.drf.com as well as the Daily Racing Forums YouTube channel. This show on Tuesday follows the DRF Players podcast. You also have the Breeding Report with Dan Illman and Nicole Russo. You have all of the stakes previews, the DRF Bets races of the day. Going into Friday, you've got at 11 o'clock the DRF Players podcast with Peter Thomas Forntel and Jonathan Kinchin. At noon, you've got the Matt Bernier Show, the preview edition. And as always, we follow that up with the latest edition of Out of the Gate. And a new little wrinkle, if you can see this, if you're listening, I'll tell you about it. We have the DRF Bets Spot Play of the Day. Those will be coming to you throughout the week leading into the weekend as well. Something to give you just a quick hard hitter, a little bit of an opinion, throw something out there. Hopefully we can pick a winner or two and we'll get you ready for some bigger and better racing over the weekend, including the Grade 1 Futurity from Los Alamitos as well as the Grade 1 Starlet. Should be some fascinating racing coming up this weekend. Again, if you watch this live, live.drf.com, livestream.com, the Daily Racing Forums Twitter handle at DRF Inside Post, or the DRF Facebook page. Thank you for doing so. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. You can also listen to this show in podcast version, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. Best of luck during your weekday sort of week anyway, leading into the weekend. Noon Eastern, Friday, the Matt Bernier Show preview. We'll take a look and see what's ahead of us and what's on tap for this upcoming weekend of racing. Best of luck.